following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. New York Yankee baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and two of the three hosts are at the Yankee baseball game, and one of them is with us, Robert Deininger. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. Wayne Unger, who's basically host emeritus of the Yankee show, and Jack DeGraw are both enjoying the last of the ninth spring training game. It's Monday night, the 11th today, or the 12th, or whatever it is. And we're well into spring training, and things are shaping up. The Yankees made a move today that surprised me. They made a move that I thought the Mets would make early on in the process. They signed Neil Walker, and I want right off the top of your head, what you thought of the deal.
I was a little shocked to hear it, but for $5 million, it's a bargain. Yeah, and I think you'll see him be playing second base come April for the Yankees.
Okay, which means third base is you have three infielders that really had a shot at second and third.
Yeah, Tyler Wade's been playing great.
As well.
Yeah.
I'm talking about three young guys. They are so rich in talent. They really did well in that Chapman thing. Him coming back to sign with the Yankees. Cashman pulled that out. And I heard something the other day. Cashman is into his 20th year as GM.
It's unbelievable. I mean,
it is. For a number of reasons, how fast 20 years has gone. I mean, I'm thinking back, Joe Torre was his first manager, and Cashman was amongst the first of the young breed of guys coming into baseball with the analytics, with who are well educated, but not necessarily long in tooth and baseball experience, who rose to the top of their organizations. And got to give him a lot of credit to last 20 years in a city like New York, initially playing for George, and his kids seem to be easier to get along with from the standpoint of a baseball employee.
You don't have to.
Good owners.
I do. It doesn't seem like they're hovering and micromanaging what he does. I think they're sitting back and letting him do his job, unlike George Steinbrenner.
And he has done one hell of a job. Future Hall of Famer. A number of baseball executives go in today's game. I think Alderson, given what he's done, is if not a Hall of Famer. I remember he did build that '89 A's team, but he's done a tremendous. Given the amount of money that he's had to squeeze out of the World. Wow, he's done a great job, but no better than Cashman. I can't think of his name. The guy that started in Boston, went to the Cubs. It's another guy from that era that really transformed baseball from the old crotchety guy who came up to be general manager in the past. And you could add another guy, Brian Sabian, to the future Hall of Famers who've built little mini dynasties and done their thing for baseball. But three rookies,
that's his name.
all along with Wade, they're set. They really are.
Oh, yeah.
Now, tell me how this signing doesn't put them over the soft cap that we've talked about. And if it puts them close, is this going to take any possible emergency money away, like, sign somebody in August or whatever? Is that a concern?
No, I think they were a little bit over 185 million as far as their luxury tax was concerned. So I mean, this doesn't hurt, and this still leaves them about $10-15 million to play with heading into the trade deadline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I was.
You're right on top of it, Robert, and I'm so appreciative of that because, as you know, I'm a New York fan. I'm a New York Met fan. I like the Yankees. I've come to like them. I respect the piss out of them. All these years I've grown up, 25 pennants, this, that, and the other thing. It's 27 by now. But it's not something I go to on a regular basis for my, like, you're right on top of it, and I really appreciate that. Tell me, if you had to give me a number of how this year's going to go, an over and under, what would that number be?
Ooh. I definitely see over 90 wins this year. I mean, unless something happens to their starting rotation, they're going to be a 90-win team easy.
Now, is there anything that particularly concerns you about the way this team is constructed, about their chances? Now, we're all, no matter who you root for, it all depends on staying healthy.
Yeah. Especially the rotation with Tanaka and Sabathia. I worry about their age and Tanaka's injury history.
Okay.
But I am expecting Gray to have a good year this year. I don't think we got to see the best of Gray last year.
You know, I live out in Northern California, and I've become kind of an A's apologist. I live literally, I could and wouldn't want to necessarily, within walking distance of the Coliseum. So I'm right on top of what I'm not right on top of with the Yankees, I'm right on top of it with the A's. The A's picked up a couple of really good prospects. One of them, Fowler, who was tragically hurt on opening day.
Yeah.
Yankees last year. Got him for Gray. Got a kid named Mateo for Gray. They gave a lot, but I said initially they got a lot. They got a pitcher with playoff experience who's still young enough that he'll fulfill most of his long-term contract whenever that comes about. I think they're gonna like him.
Yeah.
I think he's going to anchor their staff, is what I'm saying.
And he has playoff experience.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Makes a difference. When you've been there, you know what it's like. The rest is just speculation.
Yeah.
And the game changes. Once the season's over, it's like basketball. The real intensity begins in the playoffs. With that in mind, who do you think is your number one foe in the East?
It has to be the Boston Red Sox.
Okay.
Yeah, I expect the Yankees and Boston.
That's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
That's a great ride. That's turned into a great rivalry. I mean,
yeah.
It's not what the Giants Dodgers used to be. That was something else. But this is a good one, and it has some history. What with the DiMaggio's, Dom DiMaggio is the center fielder for the Red Sox. Joe DiMaggio is the center fielder for the Yankees. And we're going way back. So it's become a cool rivalry. Do you think the Red Sox will really give them a push for the division, or do you just see them as going for a wild card? Do you think anybody in that Yankee? I mean, we're talking Stanton, Judge,
Sanchez, and Bird, Didi.
It's beyond belief. And I think adding Walker, I would have enjoyed having Walker as a Met.
Yeah.
I think, he's solid. Think that adds to it. Do you think the Red Sox have any chance of competing with them with all of that for the division, or is it just a matter of they're going to come up and meet you in the wild card in the playoffs down the road?
Well, Boston won 93 games last year, and I have a feeling they're going to be right there with the Yankees in September battling for the division. And they did add J.D. Martinez to their lineup to give them a little thump there. So, I mean, I expect Boston to give the Yankees a little problem.
Okay. We have that to look forward to. It's always nice to have a rivalry, and when both teams are doing well, it really enhances it. It goes back to the old days when the Red Sox weren't doing well, and they talk about the Yankee rivalry, and they'd say, well, it's like the hammer and the nail. It's not really, the nail doesn't really have a rivalry with the hammer. He's just being hammered on. So I'm glad they're doing well from that standpoint, and that makes the season a little easier to follow. Let me ask you about Ellsbury. Is there talk about anybody taking a flyer on him, and maybe with the Yankees picking up the bulk of the salary, it would at least alleviate what I look at as a bit of a touchy situation. I think Hicks is ready to take over in center field.
Yeah, Ellsbury, since he's got some kind of injury to his side and has barely played in any games this spring, and the talk around him being moved is real quiet. I haven't heard anything this spring. So I think the Yankees are pretty much going to go into the season with Ellsbury as the fifth outfielder and look to try to unload him during the season.
Very expensive fifth outfielder, and it takes a long time.
Very expensive.
For somebody young who's going to help him down the road.
And injuries
that's about the only sticky situation I see with the Yankees. I see them doing very well. Your earliest memory as a Yankee fan?
Oh, wow. It'd have to be the 87 season, 88? Well, no, it's not. My earliest memory is going to the Yankee game, I think, in 1984 when they were playing the Tigers. I was real young, but I can remember being in the left field stands, and it was just overwhelming for me as a kid. It was incredible. That was my earliest memory, but one I can really remember was the 87 season with Mattingly.
Yeah, and he took over as your hero with the Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
Someday, and maybe it was even this year, we talked about it when they ended up not hiring him. Do you think that would be a good hire down the road, or do you think it was a mistake not to hire him this year? Because after all, Boone's got no managerial experience. Doesn't mean he won't be successful. Everybody's got to come in somewhere, but no minor league experience. They took a flyer from that standpoint. Would have it been a safer bet to pick Mattingly as the manager?
I think they wanted to go with the young manager, someone who can be more relatable with today's player. Boone does have a lot of baseball in his life as far as knowledge growing up in the game. His brother, his father, and his grandfather all been major league players, so he knows his stuff. But as a fan of Mattingly and the Yankees, I would always love to see Mattingly be the manager. But I don't think that will ever come to fruition.
Okay. Just curious.
I would love to see it.
Took you to your first game, and who do you have to thank for that? Because really developed a passion in you. And the way I look at it, life is such that if you don't have a passion of some sort, it's going to be very difficult to get through it. You know, you got to have something you love, and you got to have something you're interested in. Who do you credit with that?
My father. I mean, I can remember being a tiny kid and him let me stay up late to watch the Yankee game with him, and he took me to my first game. So I'd have to credit my father, who was a big Mantle and Elston Howard fan.
Elston, wow, very interesting. On this network is Weighted Donuts with Wayne Unger, and named after Ellie's invention. And there's a man who should have gotten a chance to manage the Yankees.
Oh, absolutely.
Basically died of a broken heart. According to his wife, he was very disappointed he didn't get a chance.
Yogi had him on his staff, right? Yogi Berra, when he managed for a time.
Yogi Berra had him on his staff. Billy Martin had him on his staff. And at one point, Elston Howard and Mickey Mantle rotated as first base coaches. One inning, Howard would come out. Next inning, Mickey Mantle would come out. That was a very interesting part of Yankee history. They didn't take care of Ellie. He should have been.
No.
And that was a George Steinbrenner thing. George was a very complex man. And an absolutely cruel man. What he did to Billy Martin, having him on the string, was just, that's the best way of saying it. He was cruel. And he knew it, and he prided himself in being that way. What a joke, my Uncle Boris would have said. All right, Robert, this is super. I enjoy your company. This was the Yankee Show, and I hope, if you're listening out there, I hope you're getting some insight as to the 2018 Yankee season. And it's always a pleasure with you, Robert Deininger.
Oh, likewise.
All right, we'll meet up next week, and please take care of yourself. Be healthy, and you're getting through the storm. Is there going to be another horrible storm? The poor Easterners in this country. We're having we're going to have a little rain in the next few days in California. May even get a little snow, a little drop of snow. Not where I am, but around me. You guys have had a horror show, and it seems to continue back east. So, is it letting up at all? You're in New Jersey.
Right now it's quiet, but I think that's about to change overnight. I think they're calling for a little snow, but I don't know how much, maybe a couple inches.
Well,
yeah, I think it's going to be in the low 40s, so we might just see a lot of rain tomorrow.
Not fun. Not fun.
No. Yeah,
all right. Actually, what is fun is that baseball is on its way, and we'll check in with Wayne and see how his Yankee experience went. Do you happen to know what the final score was today? They were losing 2-1 in the
Yankees
ninth.
lost 2-1. They almost had a comeback in the bottom of the ninth, but the Twins left fielder made a beautiful diving catch to rob, so I forget who it was, with this RBI single to tie it.
And you were in tune with that while you were doing the show?
Yeah.
And you didn't use the F word?
No.
Good, to be commended. You know you could have, but you didn't necessarily have to, and I appreciate that you didn't.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
Glad I can make you smile with a Yankee loss. All right, everybody, we'll catch you down the baseball road. See you, Robert.
Good night, Ralph.
Good night.
Who is the host emeritus of this show, and he's in Florida, just saw a Yankee game last night, And what I'm interested in, you had a great take on your Facebook page, Wayne, about preseason baseball. And can you paraphrase that a little bit for us?
Well, quite frankly, so it's my first winter in Florida. And one of the things that I was looking forward to is, wow, I can go to spring training games.
Did you ever have that before? Did you ever go down for spring
Never.
training? Oh, wow.
Never.
This had to be cool.
So, last week, actually, I went to Port St. Lucie to see the Mets because my cousins were coming to visit and they're Mets fans. And, we definitely got to go to Port St. Lucie. So we did that, and it was a bit of a dud. And I had planned yesterday's trip with my oldest son, who's also a big Yankee fan, at least 2 months in advance. Or as soon as the tickets went on sale. And the game itself was a huge stud. Now, we did other things. I got to run into some people from, someone from that does a podcast with you, someone else that I know from Facebook, from another Yankee group, and it was like the first time
Jack DeGraw you met with, who's a co-host on this very show.
Yes. I met up with someone else, a Yankee fan from Texas, who comes to Tampa every year for a week. Yes, and he runs a New York Yankee group that's pretty popular. His name is Michael Law, and so that was nice. I got to meet an old friend for lunch, but the game itself was so anticlimactic, as was last week. You don't have, I'll go around the horn. I believe you had Tyler Austin at first. I think you had Tyler Wade at second. Ronald Torreyes playing short. Brandon Drury playing third. Austin Romine behind the plate. Greg Bird was DHing, and I wanted to get a look at him.
Mm-hmm.
Giancarlo Stanton played left. Brett Gardner played center, and Billy McKinney played right. Man, McKinney, I wanted to see him too. He was part of that. He was part of the Aroldis Chapman trade, and he's been tearing the cover off of the ball in spring. But it's spring, and you also don't go against the best pitchers, and even the better pitchers are working on their stuff.
Yeah, what Branch Rickey say? He said, "Don't fall in love in March or September." And
correct.
Very difficult to judge. Players are playing against players that are up and coming and not of major league quality at times. And like you say, they're working on stuff. They're getting ready. To me, a great spring training has nothing to do with wins and losses. It has to, did your team stay healthy? That's about the most you can say. And are they swinging into shape? It's pretty much headed for the home stretch of spring training. Is there anything, as a Yankee fan, as a Yankee commentator, an analyst, let's say, because you've always been objective, you could separate your fandom from reality. Anything that stuck out to you when watching these guys?
No. Honestly, not one thing. Brandon Drury looked good. He looked good in the field. He had a good game at the plate. But even guys that just come up a cup of coffee sometimes will have that as well. I'm not saying that that's him, but in other words, it's so hard to judge. Tanaka was lights out in the first inning. He struggled in the second inning. He was okay in the third and fourth. What can I say?
Well, you did mention a guy who I think is one of the keys to the Yankees' success this year, and that's Romine. A team has to have good backup at catcher to no matter what happens. God forbid something happens to Sanchez, notwithstanding, a catcher can't catch every day, and you're going to get 5 days a week out of him at best, and you need somebody who's not going to bring down the pitching staff. And I think Romine did a good job with the pitchers last year when he was in there, and his being on the team is really important the way I see it. So they're blessed to have depth, and they certainly have that all over the field. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Ellsbury situation. What you think?
Well, he's still hurt, from what I understand, and and unfortunately for the Yankees, he doesn't help them either way when he's hurt. Okay, right. If he's hurt, he can't help them on the field, and if he's hurt, he can't
showcase him.
Can't showcase him.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because big contract. Hey, does the recent signing of Walker bring a smile to your face, or is this guy just insurance?
I think I think he's insurance. I guess at $5 million, it was too good to pass up. I mean, let's face it, he can play second. He has played third. He could play a little first.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a he swings good from the left side of the plate. Always a bonus in Yankee Stadium. But it pushes somebody to it does push somebody to the minor leagues. There was a lot of talk about wow, I mean, I was asked the question by a number of times, possibly even by you. Are you comfortable with the Yankees going with two rookies in the infield? And my answer was yes, I was.
Yeah, you had a third rookie pushing it too. I can't think of his name, something with an A, who got off to a terrific start in spring training. Another one of those guys you got from Cleveland. They're very, very deep. But you think, I mean, you're a contender. This isn't a rebuilding thing. I think just to be on the safe side, having a veteran and only depending on the success of a rookie at one position really is a strength. I think it's a good signing.
Well, I'm not these, but the two rookies we're talking about are not just any rookies. We're talking about, Baseball America rated Torres, I believe, the fifth best prospect in baseball. I forgot where they rated Andujar, but certainly in the 30s or 40s. I wasn't totally uncomfortable. And then once they got Brandon Drury, I felt better. You know what? It's not like I think it's a bad thing. What my only thought was, okay, you want to stay under the luxury tax. So what is this going to do if you're in contention and you need to make a trade? You have an injury and you need to make a trade at the deadline before July 31st, and you can't, you're faced with the dilemma of, wow, do I make this move or you have a luxury tax. Gee, do I make this move and go over the luxury tax, which I've been, or no, I got to pass this deal up. I believe the deal they made last year where they got Todd Frazier, David Robertson, and, oh my God, Conley. They got him. part of the deal was like, they got that deal done is because they were able to take on David Robertson's salary, and they also took on Todd Frazier's salary.
Right.
So what if they're presented with a deal again at the deadline? Like, okay, listen, we'll give you this guy for this, but we also want you to take on this guy too. We're not going anywhere. He's of no use to us. So you know what? We don't want. The guy makes $18 million a year. You know what? We don't want to pay the rest of his salary the rest of the way. We want somebody to take that salary off our hands, and you can have that guy. So
well, there is a little money. There is a little money left, if I'm not mistaken. There's about 10 million.
It's 15 million, I believe.
Oh, okay.
The number is estimated to be 15 million. But guess what? If that was the number they had left last year, they wouldn't have been able to make that deal with Chicago.
That's true, but they did make themselves deeper now, so that may prevent them from having to make a deal later on. That may making this deal.
What if the deal is for a starting pitcher?
That's what they need. I'm surprised they didn't sign Arrieta.
But what if the deal is for? Well, Arrieta would have put them over the luxury tax, so I'm not surprised at that. But
if they could have found a way of dumping Ellsbury's salary.
Well, you can't dump his. You see, again, you know what? Even if they get rid of Ellsbury, if they're lucky, they'll get away with maybe someone taking on $5 million his salary, which means that they'll still be liable for, I believe, like 21 or 22 million, so he's got 20. So they're liable for 16, 17 million dollars of his salary. You can't just dump him. You can't just eat it now and take the charge now. They're going to do, the way it's recognized with the luxury taxes, his contract is for 3 more years. The average annual value of that contract, and that average annual value of the contract is what goes against the luxury tax.
You know what I was thinking of the other day, Wayne? If money weren't a factor, and you looked at the way Ellsbury could fit in as a role player, as a guy coming off the bench, as God forbid something happens to Hicks, this, that, and the other thing, you'd really love to have him. That's the thing that screws up baseball, is that it is based on finance, and you put together a team that you like and it just doesn't work from a financial standpoint. It's just crazy making sometimes, because he wouldn't be a bad guy coming off the bench if he didn't cost all that much money.
Well, and also if he could stay healthy. I mean, like you say, if something happens to Hicks, hey, it's the other way around. You need somebody in case for years we've needed somebody in case something happens to Ellsbury.
That's true.
And that's still the case, so.
That's true, but Hicks hasn't exactly stayed healthy all that much either, when you look at it. So. No,
he got hurt last year too.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, would you agree, this is off the subject a little bit, that Cashman lasting 20 years as GM, given that he was under Steinbrenner, George, for the first part of it, is a tremendous accomplishment. I think he's kept them basically in contention, or at least an interesting team, for 20 years. I can't remember any years that were absolutely disastrous. And I think he needs some kudos.
Oh, without a doubt. He hasn't been perfect. You know what, though? But he's done a tremendous job. You know what? You look at Theo Epstein. Theo Epstein is screwed up, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's the nature of the job, but it's one of those jobs where if you screw up less than you do well, and it shows in the standings, then you know what?
Yeah.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah, I'm just impressed by 20 years. And I'm also amazed, and I'm sure you are too, how fast 20 years goes. Wow. The days of Torrey and Zimmer sitting on the bench next to him, it literally seems like yesterday. I guess old age is catching up with me. I've heard it all my life that things start to speed up as you get older, and it just seems like it's going very, very fast.
Yeah, listen, I remember the 1996 World Series, and the Yankees were down 2-0. I mean, I remember Andrew Jones going deep off of Andy Pettitte, I think twice in the opener. He was 19 years old, and you know, my wife at the time was a huge Andy Pettitte fan, so, you know, of course she hated Andrew Jones for the rest of her life, and always will. But, you know, like things like that. And then I remember, you know, Game 3, like, you know, Jim Leyritz, like, you know, it just, yeah, that was a long time ago. Oh. That was so long ago.
You know what's interesting to me, the play that I remember so much, and it was indicative of Jeter, the big play when he flipped the ball almost behind his back and got a non-sliding Jeremy Giambi at the plate. That was almost 20 years ago. That in itself.
Yeah, and that was, and I tell you what, and it's funny. I remember that well. My friend Larry Kunkel, who I worked with at Coca-Cola, he's a huge Mets fan, and he's one of those. He hates the Yankees. That's how he was brought up, hating the Yankees. So the first 2 games of Oakland won the first 2 games of that series.
Oh, I know, yeah.
and we had Nextels. Remember Nextels? The cell phones that also had the 2-way walkie-talkie?
No, I don't.
The 2-way radio?
No, that got by me.
Okay. Well, there was this thing called Nextels, and basically, you know, it was like, besides it being a phone, it was like a push-to-talk. Like it was a walkie-talkie. And
across country, in other words, yeah, anywhere.
Anywhere, yes.
Wow.
And I remember.
What line did that run on? Was that an internet line?
No, that was Nextel was a cell phone company, and then Sprint bought them.
But what the walkie-talkie?
I wouldn't know what line. I wouldn't know. Okay. That much I wouldn't know. But I believe it was some type of cell thing, you know.
Okay.
But nonetheless, after the Yankees lost the first 2 games, each morning I heard Larry over the Nextel, and he was just, I mean, he was kind of like inaudible. He was just going off. He was he was like, but then all of a sudden, like, you know, then the Yankees won. And then the Yankees won again, and like I didn't hear from them for a couple of days.
It's amazing how the phone lines dry up when your team loses.
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you sick? Are you home?"
The needle comes out.
Your Nextel's not working.
Yeah.
So
that's funny, but again, that's like 23 years ago, and that very well could have been yesterday, as far as I'm concerned.
I believe, I can't remember what year it was. It would have been, I'll tell you what, I think it might have been like 99. It might have been 99.
Then 18 years. That's 18, 19 years. That's still a chunk.
It is. Yeah. It is.
And like I say, in the blink of an eye. So, okay, I'm going to ask you the same question as I've asked Mr. Deininger, who was on the first part of this. Can you give me if you would, an over and under what you think is going to happen this year with the Yankees.
You mean you want me? How many wins do I expect them to have?
Yeah, they. Well, yeah. I guess that it's hard to say because we really aren't done analyzing the rest of the division. We don't know how Boston is going to be, but can you say 90 plus?
Yeah, I'd say 90, and it's funny because I asked Dan Zimborski on my show this morning if it was too early to make predictions. He goes, not really. He goes, because a lot of it is to him. A lot of it was pretty obvious. You got Houston, Cleveland. He goes, I think the Yankees are better than Boston, but it doesn't mean that they'll finish ahead of Boston. But again, in the East, he thinks it's the Yankees and Boston. He still thinks it's Washington for one more year in the National League East. The Cubs, he has, in the Central, and the Dodgers in the West in the National League. He didn't go into wild cards or anything, but he said it's all, he goes, the baseball middle class is dying. You're either going for it all, you either have it and you're going for it all, or, if you don't have it, you're just tearing it down and, you're doing the rebuild / tank.
Well, some teams rebuild faster than others. Let me give the Yankees a lot of credit. Whenever they're down a little bit, it does not take them 2 or 3 years to come back. They rebuild on the fly, and their owners are anxious to get to the top of that salary cap and skate it, as opposed to other teams that would just as soon spend no money at all, get the subsidy from baseball, get kisses every now and again. Baseball, each team got about $50 million. I read this week.
They got $50 million. They got $50 million from the ESPN Disney deal. Yep.
Yeah.
They're getting $50 million.
Each team gets $50 million.
I tell you,
that's incredible,
Yankees,
bucks.
But when you think about it, the Yankees have not had a major rebuild since the 90s, since the early 90s.
Right.
And although, you know what, they were incredibly lucky this time around, okay, when you think about it, because you had Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge come onto the scene. You also had what's his name? Didi Gregorius coming into his own. Brett Gardner was another guy who got better, and that pitching. They had Tanaka,
I don't see where any luck comes in. I think that's it.
Well, in other words, it's not luck. In other words, so many teams have put things like this together, but you know what? They were lucky. You don't usually get, no matter how good your farm system is, you know what? It's still a farm system. It's still unproven players. And you don't usually get this many young players in one shot coming into their own at the same time.
I think the deal with Chapman was incredibly. It added to those things you said. Sanchez coming up, Judge.
Oh yeah, well, not only the deal with Chapman, but also the deal with Chapman,
and then getting him back.
The deal with Miller.
Yeah.
Wait. The deal with Miller. Also trading Beltran, also finally cutting bait with Alex Rodriguez, and also, giving Mark Teixeira that, like, like he said, yeah, that's it. Like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not coming back. And they pretty much, they let him limp into the end of the season. They let him limp into his twilight. So, that helped. But again, the prospect, the guys coming through as well. Because think about it, the deal with Chapman, out of all the guys they got in the deal with Chapman, the only one who went on to the major league roster was Adam Warren. Torres, McKinney, and I forgot who the other prospect was. None of them have played at the major league level and have changed anything. The deal with Cleveland. The original deal though, where they traded Warren to the Cubs for Starlin Castro. Okay, he played well for them when he was healthy, so that helped as well. And the deal with Cleveland, they got Clint Frazier, they got Justice Sheffield, and I forgot the other two guys they got. But let's face it, only Frazier has seen some major league time, and that was a little bit last year. It's not like he was a major contributor. So those deals, just cutting, those deals didn't really, do it. It was really saying, okay, we're done with what's his name? We're done with Rodriguez. We're going to cut bait also, with Carlos Beltran, and we're going to phase out Mark Teixeira, and it was those three guys, that opened things up for guys onto the major league roster. Now, the deals that they made added a depth to their farm system, like really helped them a lot, but it was cutting bait on the other guys that opened up space on the major league roster.
Yeah. They also made a deal with the A's for a guy who's you're going to see will really stabilize the pitching staff this year, and that's Gray. You'll be very happy with him, but in the long run,
Sonny Gray, I never heard of this guy. Tell me about him.
you know.
But I know,
But the prospects you gave up. You gave up Fowler, who, if he comes back from that horrific knee injury, he's super, and a kid named Mateo, who will even out that deal. It'll be a good deal for both teams, and I really like to see that.
And you're forgetting the pitcher, Cappy Allen.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Listen. I mean, I tell you what. Even if Gray wins 18 games this year and next year, okay, I truly believe that and it will have been worth it for the Yankees, particularly if they, are in contention and if the pieces continue to stay in place and fall in place, I should say. Mm-hmm. It will be worth it for them. But it will not have come lightly. I mean, there will be. No, not at all, not at all. It's not going to have come lightly. Yeah. Absolutely not.
Hey Wayne, thank you. I always appreciate your input on this network, and please continue to keep coming back. Congratulations on resuming Weighted Donuts. And if anybody's out there listening, listen to Dan Zimborski on the show that I just published, Weighted Donuts, today. He is a very interesting guy. You guys have a great rapport, and he's a recurring guy that keeps coming on. What an additive. So
Dan is to me one of the brilliant baseball minds of the day.
And he doesn't take himself so seriously that he's not whimsical along the way. He realizes
exactly.
He doesn't come off pompous by, let me show you these numbers and this is the way it is. He fits right in with the other podcasters on this network who have strong opinions, but they're not opinionated. And I think that's what sets us apart as from some of these other guys that you hear. They if they have something to say, they run it at you like you couldn't possibly object to what I'm saying, or you couldn't possibly put